Hey everyone, before we get into this video, I wanted to remind you guys that any tier on our Patreon grants you complete access to our Discord server, which is full of amazing content for everyone. And just by being in the Discord, you get free entry to all of our tournaments. We currently have 4 tournaments a month. Prizing consists of booster boxes, merchandise, and coaching. Also, make sure to check out our sponsor, Big City Cards, and use our code Duelist Academy for 8% off your order. And with that, let's get right into the video. Yo, what's up, guys? We have Dave Edwards here, our LCS 5 champion and Duelist Academy student, mind you. Yo, David, congrats. Can you tell us a little bit about your deck?
Yeah, it was Dragon Link, 50 cards. I chose this deck because it was what I was most comfortable with. I actually struggled quite a bit all the way up what seemed like until like I want to say I guess like the Tuesday or Wednesday before the LCS on what deck I wanted to play, because I'm a big fan of the Inferno Noble Knight deck. I really love that deck a lot, but I just couldn't get it to work the way I wanted it to where I couldn't have bad hands. I wanted hands to where I could be able to play through a hand trap if I ever needed to at all times. So I was comfortable with the Dragon deck, and I know it could do that, a fair amount of time. So that's why I chose the Dragon deck that I chose.
Okay, very good. So, are you going with what's comfortable over trying something different? Because this is like a tried and true strategy. Not a whole lot has changed since Rise of the Duelist. Just real quickly, let's go over the list here, I guess, from the beginning.
Okay. All right. So I guess it's kind of awkwardly built or organized. I organized it from one-hand starters or pseudo one-hand starters, and then so that's just the first line with Chaos Space being your best starter, and then going down to the second line, well, maybe like the second line and a half would be your extenders, so that with the best one being World Legacy Guard Dragon. This card I view as the best extender because not only does it give you a monster back, it's the best cards to have when you get in the Beard, because it gives you a tuner, and then the tuner turns into Needle Fiber, and then the Needle Fiber gets you another Dragon tuner, and then that turns into LP, and you can move it over, and that's just full combo by itself. So I viewed that as the best extender in the deck. And then Quick Launch, the second best extender, because it gives you a tuner and a dragon all at the same time. It's kind of like Unexpected Die in that situation, except you don't need to run the vanilla monsters. I view Tracer as a much better vanilla monster.
Yeah, not being once per turn either. No restriction at all, really.
No. Very, very much Unexpected Die or Italy S card. Very broken, in my opinion. So yeah, and then I guess going on from the extenders, not too much to talk there. I mean, you have your rocket engine, a very small rocket engine, the 3 tracers, Absa Router, Magna Rocket, and then Recharger. I chose, I guess the only weird thing would be Magna Rocket over Silver Rocket. Magna Rocket lets you send a monster to the graveyard when it's targeted for its effect. That's pretty much the utility of it. That's really the only difference behind it. So like I guess technically it would be just player preference. I could see people choosing Silver Rocket with the new Dragma deck being a thing, because it with Boot Sector it could crash with Window. So I could see that. But yeah, that's why I chose that card. After that, you just have your hand traps. I chose these hand traps because I thought they would be the best suited for the meta. The 3 Gamma being the best hand trap. It just does like it's everything pretty much you would want in a hand trap. The only downside is you're only activating it once, which is usually enough, and you can't control any monsters. But it's just so much. It's so worth it. Like when it resolves, especially if it ever resolves on your turn, it's just usually so game changing. And then Infinite Impermanence, probably the second best hand trap because it can't be called by the grave. That's another thing about Gamma, it can't be called by the grave at all. And then Ash Blossom, just the most generic hand trap that hits a wide range of the meta. And then a Ghost Ogre. I chose three Ghost over two Ghost Ogre like Ash Blossom because it's light and so it has utility with Chaos Space, and it hits one of the cards that I was more afraid of, which was Network. Even though it was underrepresented, which I was kind of surprised of. Um, I couldn't afford to have that combo resolve, or quote unquote the combo resolve against me. So I chose to run three Ghost Ogre over two. So that was the reason why three Ghost Ogre instead of two Ghost Ogre like Ash Blossom. And then the rest are just the combo pieces in the deck, or the quote unquote bricks of the deck.
Okay. And then just with the main here, was there anything? There's not a whole lot that shifted since the release of Rise of the Duelist, and that was the big thing going into this LCS, right? We have all the new Dogma cards, we have the Infernoble cards, the new some new staples here in the sense of like droplets or tactics. Is there anything in Rise of the Duelist that affected your main deck at all? Whether not necessarily in what cards you played, but like more so because these cards exist. Did anything change? Because this is like, again, a tried and true strategy, but we noticed there are, like you mentioned before, you did change your hand trap lineup a little bit to adjust to some of the new meta cards here.
I guess the only thing that I can think off the top of my head that would probably make me think, it's more like when you're playing, thinking differently, I guess, would be Tactical Talents. It's like a card that you kind of have to have in the back of your head, but it wasn't seeing much play, and like a lot of people I know kind of predicted that it wouldn't see much play, at least in the main deck. I can't like, and even if it was saw play in the side, I thought it would be more of a good going second card to out like the Buster Lock. So that like, so just like it doing things against hand traps wasn't like super relevant, but there's always that, maybe that someone's main decking it and it's possibly a blowout, but like that's the only card as far as like affecting my main deck, or how I thought going into the game as far as my main deck. Other things were just like going against combo decks. Those were the decks I was kind of concerned with, and the Numeron engine. Everything else I thought was doable. I thought that's why I mained so many hand traps, because the combo decks were the main concern of mine. The rock decks, the mirror, the Inferno Noble Knight. I felt like if I had 11 hand traps, I had a good chance of opening 1 to 2 and maybe stopping them from building their board, or significantly hindering their board and being able to break it.
Right. And going off of that, like with a specific number of hand traps and your like likelihood of opening 2, did that factor in your decision to play 50 cards? I know it's been a theme lately in these big combo decks to go over 40, but can you elaborate a little bit more on theory behind playing like not specifically 50, but just over 40 in general with a deck like this?
So like with decks like this, you have a large amount of, like I said, what you would call quote unquote bricks or combo pieces that you are going to see that are less desirable to draw, along with the hand traps, especially if you're going first. So 50 or 40 plus, spaces out those cards so you don't draw as many together. It doesn't become as much of a problem because though you have more cards in your deck, so you're less likely to see them together all the time. I actually had built a 40 card version of this deck, and just to test that theory, and that's exactly what happened. I kept drawing hands where I would see multiple hand traps, or in a brick card, or one of my engine or combo piece cards that I needed not to draw, and then like maybe a starter, and I couldn't play through hand traps. So I went back to the 50 card deck, and I saw those hands less significantly. I don't think I saw those hands in the whole tournament, but maybe once. Like I had in the finals, game 3, I could only combo with the one card, but he didn't play very many hand traps, so it wasn't an issue.
Right, right. Especially since, like, I believe in the finals, when you got to play with only one card, the remainder of your hand was used to simply out the board that he made, which was pretty significant. All right, that was pretty good coverage of the main deck here. Let's go into your side deck, actually.
Okay. So there's 3 ruler, 3 what I would like to call, I guess, the quote unquote new trap dust shoot, lightning storm, twin twister, droplet, the 2 staple side deck cards, which is red reboot and Prekatops. I guess there's not really much to talk about here. I mean, I guess you could talk about the pointers. Like that card could easily have been the new card from Rise of the Duelist. I think it's called Dragons Imprisonment,
Ice Dragon's Prison, yeah. Like, that was something we talked about quite a bit. Like, some of the flaws with this card, I guess, that we mentioned. But, I mean, we won't go too into detail about that right now. But, yeah.
Right. And then the other card, I guess, would be Droplets. I viewed that. I love this card. This card's like insane to me because like it just lets you stop. It just lets you stop cards that are like problematic, like Zexal or VFD, or the as the thought card if it doesn't tribute itself. So those situations come up, and then being able to play into a board, even when they have Herald, you can play into a board with this card, and it makes it so much easier to deal with the board. I actually played against Gabriel Vargas, and he was playing a dinosaur deck where he was blinding second, and he pretty much could have broken my board. I think he did a small misplay, but he had but in large part it was because of droplets that he would have been able to do it. Even though I had Herald, and Herald affects that deck quite a bit because their best card is basically null and void as long as Herald's on the board, which is Miscellaneous Source. So I view this card. I think this card is very, very good.
Yeah, definitely very strong in these combo aspects where you only really need one card, such as like Black Metal or your Seafer or Chaos Space, to like really just power through and do the remainder of your combo. So using the rest of your hand to out your opponent's board and then summoning something like Black Metal, which we saw you do in Game 3 of the finals, is exactly kind of what you want to see with a deck like this. And then I guess lastly, going into your extra deck here, is there anything you want to comment on this? This is kind of standard at this point.
I think it's pretty standard. It's not really too much to touch on. I guess like, you have the difference between what you want to end with the Heraldic Spears or the Apollosa. Usually you have to pick between the two. 90% of the time, if I'm going blind, I try to go to I've changed to going to Heraldic Spears because not only does it become an interruption, it becomes a follow-up, being able to either summon Seyfried or being able to summon Brotar if I haven't used it, or even Red Ash Darkness Metal. So it really depends. I chose to make Apollosa in the finals against my opponent because I knew Apollosa would be strong against his deck, whereas Heraldic Spears wouldn't have done as much as Apollosa would have in that situation. Right. Especially backed up behind a pointer of the Red Lotus.
Yeah, having a pointer there definitely does sound like something you want to see. So generally, your end board is either Apollosa or Herald, and then the remainder of it is your Herald and your Savage and Union Carrier with the Buster Lock, right?
Yep.
All right. So that is like the basic combo. So can you give us some insight on your side deck patterns here with these ratios that you have?
So going first, it's pretty much generally the same unless I'm playing against trap decks. The only difference between I side out the 3 ogres, unless it's Altergeist or Groove for the ogres. And then if it is one of those cards, I would side out Foolish Burial, an Infinite Impermanence, and Monster Reborn. Otherwise, I just side out the 3 ogres if it's not those decks, and then I side in Twin, and then I side out 3 of cards, which would be a Noctovision, one of the Tracers, and one of the Quick Launches. Because like those those decks, like I can usually combo through. They have like one hand trap, maybe two at most, and this deck can usually push through that. The problem becomes when they have cards like Evenly Match or Sphere Mode or Dark Ruler, and those decks aren't really affected by the carrier, the Buster Lock. So if I play against trap decks, I also side if I'm siding into it, I'm sorry, I also side out the Buster Lock because it's just no reason to have that card. Unless they're playing the Numeron engine, because obviously you don't want to get killed by that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Other than that, when I'm going second, we'll start with, I guess, combo decks. I go Dark Ruler, Lightning Storm. Depending on the combo deck, I whether I put in droplets or not. Usually I do. And then Pankratops. So for those, ogres come out almost all the time, unless it's against Infern Noble Knight, because ogre, if they activate Assault's first effect, ogre, and that is like really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, the three ogres usually come out. One Foolish Rail Monster, Born, Nocto, Tracer, the third Tracer, the third Quick Lunch, and the third War Legacy Guard Dragons are usually the cards I would be siding out. Basically the 3-0s. And then, so basically I just go for the 3-0s. The least, the least, what I value the least, extenders, and then the 3-0s is pretty much how I go about siding.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like not needing necessarily 3 of these cards, because when you're not going first, you really have a 6 card as well. It's not so much about drawing a single one of them. You need to maximize your potential of drawing your side deck cards, and getting rid of some of your 3-0s. You still have a decent amount of chance of drawing them, especially seeing a 6 card. And you're limiting the options to brick on having multiples of the cards that are once per turn.
Yeah, I guess like the one card that people probably would ask that I don't side out that would be quote unquote a brick would be the Buster Lock. So when you're playing against a combo deck, and if you're able to resolve it, usually the only way you're able to play through a combo deck, if you haven't been able to hand trap them, is Dark Ruler. That means you can't kill them, so you have to be able to lock them out of the game on the following turn. So that's why I don't side that card out against combo decks, for that reason.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. So speaking of some of like how you played your matchups here, what were your matchups if you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. I played against 3 Dogma Eldritch. I played against 1 Dinosaur Dogma. And then I played 1 against a mirror match, which is my good friend Mike Thomas. And then I played against the Ritual Rock deck, which was extremely scary.
Yeah. You were his only loss the entire event twice, so.
Yeah, I was my friends only lost the entire event twice also, which is weird.
Yeah, you were taking out everyone. You went undefeated the whole event, I believe, right?
Yep.
Ooh, clean sweep.
Yeah, TJ, I tried to do the TJ.
Yes, the TJ. Hopefully not as much of a one-hit wonder as TJ, but yeah.
Well, I have 2 LCS tops already, so.
So yeah, exactly.
Then in top cut, I played against Infern Noble Knight. My friend again in top 4, which was the mirror, and then in the finals, I played against the Ritual Rock deck again. So, yep, those were my matchups. It was very fun, especially for my first LCS.
Oh yeah, this is your first LCS win. You gotta love seeing it. So,
yeah, it was weird because I wasn't even sure I was going to enter because I couldn't figure out our deck.
You went with what you were comfortable with, and this is what you end up working at. You know, like it kind of goes to show if you play what you're comfortable with, if you play what you know how to play, and you play it well, it sometimes just works better than playing something unknown, even if it potentially has more power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is a game against Kamal in the LCS, I believe, right?
Yep, this is top 8 of the LCS.
Oh, broken. This is a game we didn't even get to stream. So yeah, let's see how this game plays out.
Okay, so Kamal's going first, and my hand is Gamma Empire, which is really strong against Infern Noble Knight. I do know what Kamal was playing because I've seen one of his matches in the LCS. So I already had an idea of I already knew what he was playing. So, and if you look at Kamal's hand, it's not that strong, honestly. I mean, he has Gamma Imperm, so it's like pretty much what you would want going second. But yeah, so when I looked at my hand, I was like, oh, cool. I have, Gamma, I have Imperm, I should be strong. The one thing I don't have is a starter card in my hand, so I don't have any normal summon that gets me there. So I'm hoping that my 6 card is one of those. So that was like my thought process when I was going in there. And then seeing the sand also means that I knew what I could stop. I knew me being able to play playing the Nova Knight decks and testing it. I knew the choke points of the deck. So we'll just go on a little bit. Starts off with Chalice, Durandal, and this is how I knew his hand wasn't very strong. When you start off with Squeak Knight, your hand isn't very strong at all, at all.
Yeah, essentially the same thing as normal summoning a Phalanx in your deck.
Yep. So he starts off with Ronald. Yep. And he gets his spell back. So I guess you could say that maybe I could have Imperm there so he doesn't have a follow-up, but I just felt like I could have saved the Imperm for better value, so I just chose to let it go.
Yeah, playing a combo mirror, you don't really need to play for the long game as much. You just want to make sure they can't get anywhere significant and then get to play your game, and then you should be able to win. Because if he basically doesn't do anything, he shouldn't really have the next turn, right?
Right, and I knew that Durandal wasn't going to be doing anything next turn anyway, or this turn anyway. At most, he could have Gilfried to equip it to, but he can't even do that unless he has another way to send an equip spell.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, if he had Gearfeed, he probably would have banished it first. So you knew he doesn't have that.
Yeah. And then he makes his Isolde, and I just Gamma here because this like my deck. If you Gamma here, he doesn't get to send the equip spells, cutting him completely off from Gilfried. So he doesn't have the option to do that, and he has to use 2 warriors, and we already know one of his cards in his hand. So 2 of these cards have to be 2 warrior extenders, and it can't be Renault because he already used it. So Gammoning here, I thought was the best choice.
Also, not to mention that most of the warrior extenders in that deck require you to have a warrior monster on the field, and Gamma removing the body itself makes it really hard for him to extend, except for that Olivier in his hand. But again, he needs to have another monster in his hand to really get to use that.
Yep. And we see here, he just passed turn, and I drew the normal summon, but he does have 2 hand traps, as we see. So my thought process was, well, I have 2 to 3 extenders if I ever get a light engrave. So my hand's pretty good. That was my thought process.
Yeah, no, your hand seems very strong because it was just extenders.hand until drawing the starter, and then it was just a full hand of combo. And like we said before, every extender you have is another hand trap that you can play through.
Mm-hmm. And I just basically go through the combo as
being able to chain block here, protecting the Romulus. Unfortunately, their Imperm does get to catch it, but it's fine because you do have the extender in hand.
And then I drew Ghost Ogre, so even if he's somehow able to stop my turn here, I have the Ghost Ogre for the Durandal that I know he has. And then I have the Imperm for if he is able to get to, so I have Imperm for that. And then obviously I have a lot going for me this turn.
Yes, using the move function of the World Legacy Guard Dragon, proving again why it's one of the best extenders.
Yes. Then he Gammas here, which I think was correct. Because then this puts me on having to have 2 more dragons in my hand, and he knows 2 of the cards in my hand already. So I think what he did was correct. So from here, I think a bit. And then I think the play I settle on is just making Heretic Spears and passing, because I know one of his cards is just a rando, which is just going to get eaten up by Ogre, and the Infinite will get eaten up by hopefully the second play, and the Heretic Spears would be the third play. So I'm thinking in my head, there's no way he's able to play the next turn, and I should just be able to win on the back foot.
Not to mention, the Heretic skill can get you access to Tracer. Putting that in Grave makes it so Boot Sector has his soul charge effect, per se.
And because I know he has Durando, I know that I have my Collapse Serpent is always going to hit the field.
With the Ghost Trigger going to Grave, yeah.
So yeah, so I'm comfortable completely passing on this, knowing that, especially since I know what one of his cards is. He draws Infinite for the Heretic, so like I'm just like, oh, that's perfect, because that just means that's a 1-for-1. Like it's a -1 for him, because like the Heretic still contribute itself and get value. I was completely fine with him. He's gonna Infinite here, and I was just completely fine with it. Yep, and then this is like the last card that I don't know, so I'm like, all right, well, I know I absolutely win this game. And then he does that, just like as I thought. I Ogre that. He attacks. I still tripping for cost. And gets a second effect. And I just bring out this. And he thinks for a minute, and then I'm like, okay, we can just go to the next game because I have this, and just know way you're winning.
Yeah, just letting him know. Yeah. Saving a little bit of time.
Yeah, Kamal's a good player, so like me showing him that and me knowing all his cards, like we understood the game state. You know, we don't need to waste time, right?
Yeah, not to mention that you can actually use your Darkness spell to bring back the LP and still get that effect as well. So it's just full combo on the following turn. And so wow, what a hand going second.
Yeah, it's a pretty good hand going second. The only
you just need to draw a monster.
I need to draw a monster. The only other issue is like this is another one of those decks that one hand trap generally does not stop them.
Yeah, both those decks are very similar. The Warriors and the Dragons going at it for time after time, doing almost the same thing.
Yeah, and so I have to kind of try to pick and choose where the best time to imperm is.
If you want, you can just fast forward through some of his line here.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want to pass anything up.
Searching a Sublime Knight off that, just getting another follow-up.
Okay, so here is where you could debate that I could imperm here. But the problem is this is a tuner, so it just lets him resolve his whole combo regardless. So, and he sends 3 for cost, which means I know he's getting Dolphin. So like he's not hitting anything out of my hand, so I'm just like, okay, sure, go ahead. So that's why I let this resolve, because like essentially it doesn't, like the imperm won't do anything here. And he says this, I don't think you can win this game, but we'll see. And to be honest, it's not looking too great.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. I feel like a monster is kind of what you need. What I imagine that you're holding the impermanence for at this point is the Charles effect to rip a card out of your hand, or maybe just the Savage itself. So
I decided to do it here, on the Needle Fiber, and there was a reason for this. I guess you could have said I could have waited, like you said, until the Savage tries to equip, but I chose. I think it wouldn't have mattered either way, because like I just wanted the hero off the board, because I wanted Chaos to be able to resolve, because I knew that he was going to rip the Dark Ruler. So if I got any monster, even if it wasn't a playable monster, I just wanted my Chaos space to resolve, because that gave me the best chance to win the game. If I was going to win this game. Because now the line of play he does, I don't think he can make Savage and Charles, and since he saw Dark Ruler, I'm pretty sure that he had to go for Charles here.
Yeah. Like Savage would be pretty useless. And then making Roland is obviously one of the best follow-ups for that deck, just getting extra searches and being able to do what seems like an equally powerful turn 2.
Yep. And he just goes, makes his since the Jet Synchron makes his Charles here. Very sad that didn't come in Starlight Rare.
Yeah, honestly, they did the Noble Knight deck dirty. They could have been much higher rarity.
Yep. And then the Charles will send the Dark Ruler. And I draw Ogre. See? Yep. That's exactly what I needed. Like I said, I really just I wanted to draw any light or dark monster. Didn't matter what it was. I needed to draw any light dark monster to resolve this. And if he had Ash, then I just scoop, right? So, but he didn't. So from here, doesn't seem like a very winnable game.
Yeah, he still has a Charles pop as well.
Yeah, and an unknown set card which you can kind of assume is infinite, or Claw by the Grave. Claw by the Grave doesn't affect me too much, but it would be
pretty. Claw by the Grave would be pretty crazy banishing the light, like because he knows the rest of your hand.
Right, but once I saw he didn't, I was like, okay, it's not Claw by the Grave, so it has to be infinite, or droplets, I guess. Those would be like the two cards that it could be. But this is the thing I like about this deck. Like you looked at my hand before, and you look at my hand now, like it's just so much more value. And then I drew off the Chaos Space. I drew another dragon. I was like crazy. I drew another dragon to let me play.
Oh, because he used the Charles effect to pop as well with the Roland effect, and then we got there with an extra dragon. So now all we have to really do is play around this impermanence.
Yep, and he lets it go here.
Yeah, he knows that he has to stop something later down the line because all he has left to do is that impermanence, and he knows the entirety of your hand, so he's probably thinking it through as well.
So this is interesting that he chose to infinite here. I think, well, I guess no. I think it's probably correct because I just make.
You'd make a Herald, right? Yeah.
So this was probably the last time he could.
But this is the funny interaction. Like he just has more cards. You get to do this. You would have also able to just summon an LP under the Link Cross zone and then move it with the Guard Dragon effect. Like you can do it all.
Yeah. So for here, I just go safely. I just made the Appaloosa, which you can debate was not necessary, but I didn't have any more Dragon Tuners because I drew the one Dragon Tuner that I had in my deck. So the Needlefiber was only ever going to be able to summon a hand trap. So I just made Appaloosa here. This is where I misplay a bit because I make the LP here, and what did I do? I summoned Tracer. This should not be Tracer. What I should have done was summon Brotar here and got Levy in there. That's what I should have done, and that would have killed him because he was at 75, and I didn't notice that. So always pay attention to how much your opponent's life points is because it could be very relevant.
Yeah, the battle phase is definitely really important when you're trying to not tunnel vision too much on resolving combo when you just have a battle phase.
Mm-hmm. So here, I just clear the board. And then I get a little tilted and frustrated and misplay here instead of so then I end my turn, and you would his hand's pretty strong. He has the Guilt-Free, but I have the Appaloosa to negate the summon. He has the Durandal, and he has an
Sublime
extend.
Yeah.
Yep, he has a lot going for him. So he should be able to clear my board with no issues.
Yeah, that's the kind of a bit tricky part of these combo mirrors nowadays when they have so much value that even though you got through his board turn 1, its follow-up is so strong. But this
Yeah.
is the true test, right? This was the deck you want to play, and you practiced the matchup, so just the knowledge does help you a lot in being able to play through it a little bit.
Especially in this situation, because he did not know that the summoning of Gilfried was in effect. He thought it was an inherent summon.
Mm-hmm.
And because he did it this way, he never got to summon his Gilfried this turn. So that was extremely high value because Gilfried does a lot going against boards. Like this card's like really, really strong at going against boards.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then he wasn't sure, so we call a judge here. Judge rules in my favor, and yeah. Then this happens. Sublime Knight, I negate that. I know he has the Durandal, so he has to summon. So this is one of the few things I did not know about the deck. I thought they were all effect summons, but Renard is not.
Renard is not, yeah.
Yeah, so not as if I could like negate it or anything, but like I thought all of them were effects. I knew Astolfo was for sure, and I knew Oliver was for sure. Yeah. So Fossil, I negate that because like it's just gonna be another extender.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather not give him that. And if you look at his hand, he's not able to kill me anymore because he just doesn't have enough.
Yeah, the Gearfried's already been used. He can summon the Oliver discarding the red layer or something. But we'll see how far he can go.
Probably the Eclipse spell.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, we just go through a small ruling thing just to make sure. He wasn't sure if the Renard was still a tuner. I was like, I'm not 100% sure. Let me read. And then I was like, yeah, it's still a tuner because that's part of the summoning. So
Mm-hmm.
Searches another Sublime Knight. Gets a Stolfo. So his play was like really strong. He does a really strong play where he's able to pop my boot sector with his Phoenix, and then he put back the Astolfo into the deck, and then he searched it back with Chalice so he could summon the Astolfo again, and then he's gonna make a Unicorn to spin the Boros Sword, and then attack for what's this 41 damage, and then he has a Unicorn which is co-linked with a Phoenix, so it can't be destroyed by battle. And he gets to draw 2 cards on the next following turn. So this was all free because of the Phoenix play. So this is really strong play. Reminding me back in the Goki days.
Yeah, it felt like Goki, right?
Yeah. So yeah, he putting in that Omega, putting in that Safo back was really strong play. It shows you how strong of a player Kamal is.
Mm-hmm.
So I drew Safer here. So I have Safer, World Legacy, Guard Dragon, and I think I know all of his cards in hand.
Well, he drew a few
except this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know 2 of them. I know the Gilfried and I know the Sublime Knight. Did he just redraw the Astolfo? Is that what happened?
He searched it with Heritage, did he not? Like, I don't...
Yeah, but he summoned it to make the Unicorn.
Oh, then yeah, maybe.
So he must have just redrew it. So yeah, so he drew Connector Astolfo. So there's 2 cards I don't know, so possible hand traps. So I'm just thinking of the lines of play that I have. And yeah, I bring back the Tracer to pop the Warlock Cigar Dragon to summon a monster. Because I want to get Levy in here. I forget that. So this allows me to blow up the board. And then I at this point I forget that I'm locked in the dark, so we do take this back. He tells me immediately, and I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. And then I'm like, I have to kind of go into the tank because I have to get the Levineer off the board. so I can bring it back with the safer.
Yeah, I think this is when we started actually coming in and watching it on the stream, and like we saw the play that you had to make, and we're really happy that you saw it as well.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I do have the Striker Dragon, so I Striker Dragon, pop the Levineer to grab a guy, safer back the Levineer and attack for a game, and that's just game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this video really illustrates being able, not only my deck, but both decks being able to play through boards, even though like my hand wasn't like super amazing, right? Like it was okay, but like it was still able to do enough to win the game.
Okay, so finally, congrats again on your LCS 5 win, and just shoutouts to you for being a Duelist Academy student, my student by the way, and making it this far. You're really doing us proud. And then last things, I guess, is there anything that you would change?
Like I said, the pointers of Red Lotus could be like the trap card from Rise of the Duelist, the Dragon's Icy Imprisonment. But other than that, I think specifically for this tournament, I don't think I would have changed much of anything. I mean, you could argue maybe change the ogres, but that's more hindsight.
Yeah, like you were preparing for some Numeron matchup, which didn't prove to be as popular. Maybe going forward you would take it out, but if you were still trying to respect Numeron, Ogre was something that you wanted to have.
Yes. So, yep.
All right, any shoutouts?
Yes. Shout out to my team, Pandora's Prodigy. Shout out to our sponsors, Gen 1 TCG and Top Cut Animes and Games. Shout out to Duelist Academy, of course. They were, they've helped me grow so much. In this last year alone, I've been able to top another YCS with their help. With this LCS 5, a solid, probably the best coach. I like. He's awesome. He is always helping me. Like I message him a lot about stuff, and he's helped me so much. I think he's definitely improving my deck building and technical play for sure, and just the way I view the game. And yeah, he was a big help. Shout out to everybody who helped me, with theory on the deck and lines of plays. Cody Angelov, Mike Thomas, who also topped the LCS, got in top 4. And shout out to my finals opponent. That deck was scary and insane.
Yeah, shout out to Lundredy. Yo, thanks for the plug. And yeah, congrats again.
Yeah. And make sure everybody go sign up for the Patreon, man. It's worth it. I'm telling you.